want you to think about it. What do you love about our church? What brings you here every week? What is it about First Baptist Church that you just love and this is it, it's non-negotiable for me? It's always about being together. So the second question she asked, and I think this is one that we think of, is when you invite someone to church or you're envisioning inviting a friend to the church, who is the first person you want to introduce your friend to? Think about it. What do you love about our church? And when you invite people, who do you want to introduce that person to? But then I thought about it because we started having conversations. This was the next day, I think, we were in lunch, and I told somebody, I can't remember who it was, we were talking about people in the church, and I said, I wish you could have met Doug Leatherman. I wish you could have met Doug Leatherman. To this person, I don't know why, there was a conversation where I was thinking of Maury's husband, late husband Doug. And I said, there's not a day that goes by that I miss Doug. And then it hit me as I was reflecting on this, that there are some of us in this room, when we think about who is it that we would introduce to our friend when they visit, would introduce them to a person who is no longer here, but with Jesus. And it really hit me of just how much our church has changed over the years. And you have COVID and different things like that, but even in the current day and age, there was a day when First Baptist Church was one of like 10 churches and that was it. Well, there are no longer just 10 churches. And we can play the game about branding to be competitive. We can play the game about big programming in order to be competitive. But being competitive will drive you crazy because church is not about being competitive. It's about being community. But one of the things that I think we have to really come to terms with as a church is that we have to acknowledge the grief that we bear as a church from the many people who no longer serve with us. We need to grieve the programs and the ministries that we can no longer do because the people that we would relate to in those programs is just not viable. That's not what we're called to do. We're called to be different. And I would say the bread and butter of this church is not its programs or its ministry. It's about being community together. It's about showing up. It's about being in a place where we can encourage one another. I call it a drop-in ministry. Can you drop in on your pastors? Can you drop in on one another to break bread, to share together? Can you stop? Look, we can go to various churches in our area, big programming, big things. That's what they're called to do. They're good at it. But what we're good at is knowing one another, being friends. But we have to grieve, and we have to acknowledge that for many of us, it is hard to move on. And I hope that you think very intentionally about who you might invite on this journey. But I want to tell you something. If the first person that comes to your mind about who you would introduce is no longer with us, then you may have to be the person that people are excited about introducing people to. You may have to be the person that our young people tell their young friends, you need to come and meet this person, because I tell you what, I want to tell this story. I know we're over time, but I think this is important. When Christine and I were being raised in our church, our home church, we were together. We were just newly married. I was in the youth group at that church. This is in Pompano Beach. It's that New Covenant Presbyterian church I told you about. We went on a trip to Israel, and there were 50 people, and nobody was our age. We were like 19, we were 20 and 21. Nobody was our age. But it was those people, not the youth, not our peers, that shaped, formed, and inspired me to become a minister. If you say, oh, we need more young people, God will bring exactly who we need. We need you. If you think we need more middle-aged people, people know how to do church and get the bills paid, yeah, that's right, but we also need you. If you think we need a program or a ministry, we need you. But at the same time, I think there needs to be a little work. We need to grieve our loved ones. This church has been battered and beaten for so long because it seems like we can't get a break. Now we have Harold O'Flaherty and Linda in a very fragile place, and Harold, And the deeper we love, the deeper these things are going to hurt. And the deeper we love, the deeper we grieve, but we need to grieve in a healthy way. These disciples, when they were talking with Jesus, were being set up to grieve in a healthy way, not to go after one another in light of Jesus' arrest and execution. This is our church. We are who we are. God has placed in each pew the people that he wants, and there are more out there. But I hope you're the person that you want people to introduce their friends to.